Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF.
Do you want to start again, Suj?
No. We'll leave it in. Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around 50 big uns. My name is Such.
My name is James.
It's three match days to go, James. Tonight we have Brighton versus Manchester City. We have Manchester United versus Chelsea. And then obviously the final day.
Yeah, the final day crapshoot, basically, where anything goes and all Sky rules are off the table, right? You use transfers if you've got them left. There's probably going to be some rotation, punt differential captains, or go with the highly owned if you want to hold on to rank. We'll probably talk captaincy. Sunday is probably an open debate of a number of different things people can do. How was your week, Suj? Where are you at?
I've had a rank rise. So I was around 260, something like that. Or 320, I can't remember. I'm at 219 anyway, which I think has been okay. On Saturday, I captained Mo Salah. When I kind of knew that Rashford was probably out.
Hold up, rewind.
Yep.
Rewind. Didn't we have a debate last week about you're going to go Wilson, I'm going to go Isak?
Yeah, that was the week before. Sorry, yeah.
So they played Thursday night, didn't they?
Yeah. Okay, so I did go Wilson.
So I mean that just sums up my season, doesn't
it? Yeah, I did go Wilson, and that worked out particularly well. So yeah, that was good. Saturday was Mo Salah at home to Liverpool. I didn't want to chance it with Rashford, but I did have David De Gea, who came with an 11-pointer with a clean sheet there, which was pretty decent. On the Sunday, I decided to act on the Haaland's probably out news and stick the armband on Julian Alvarez for an 18-pointer. So that was decent, and that gave me a decent rise. I was surprised on Monday because I didn't captain Wilson.
Did you not?
Sorry. I captained Wilson. I didn't captain Trippier. And I thought the majority of people would be on Trippier over Wilson. And I didn't drop in rank. I went from like 216 to 219 or something like that. I didn't drop in rank. And I really thought that the Trippier captaincy was going to kick me.
I think the ownership between Wilson and Isak probably went up to a level where most, probably 60, 70% of the top 1,000 had one or the other. And I think going into the game, most would have captained the offensive player. So it would only been those just with Trippier would have captained Trippier, I think.
Yeah. So I've ended up with De Gea 11, Lewis Dunk was 5, Trippier 10, Konate just the 1, Ruben Diaz no show, Salah 10, including a captaincy, Marcus Rashford no show, Mitoma 5, Haaland no show, Alvarez 18, Callum Wilson 4. So quite a lot of no shows and real shit at the end of the season, despite us planning for these doubles and extra fixtures. These extra fixtures haven't materialized. I still have 2 free transfers, James. Konate can go for me. Salah's going to stay because of the final day, but Konate can go, and probably Marcus Rashford could go, and Ruben Diaz could go. It'll probably be Konate and Diaz will go tonight, and I'm not sure.
Rashford is fit for tomorrow.
So he won't go. So it'll be Konate and Diaz are likely to go for me.
Yeah, we know FPL Raptor just messaged just before we were about to start recording. He's been told by his Man City source that Grealish, Diaz, Aki, Akanji, and Laporte, we think haven't travelled to Brighton
John
tonight.
Stones is playing, right?
John Stones, Kyle Walker, possibly Rico Lewis.
I need
it's going to be a patch up, isn't it?
Just because of formation. So I need to move to one defender. But why not even just Estupinan?
Or Manchester United player tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the other alternative. Luke Shaw or something like that. Yeah. So one defender and one other player. If it's probably likely to be a Mahrez or a Foden or something like that.
Do you want to hear about my fun week?
Yes.
So my last transfer has cost me net 30 negative points, which is the Alexander Isak transfer. How? Because by buying the second Newcastle player and getting the offensive one, I took the captaincy of Trippier twice, didn't I?
Ouch.
So Trippier, if I'd captained him twice, is 36 points.
Yeah.
I've captained Isak twice, haven't I? Actually, it's probably not as bad as 30. It's only half, isn't it? Because I've still got
Yeah.
Trippier's half points. But okay, yeah. Net negative 15 points then.
Ouch.
What a liberty.
And you considered, and I was not keen, but and you considered Bowen on Sunday, and you talked him up, and a goal and an assist.
Yeah.
Did he get a shot here as well?
Yeah. But still, on Sunday, I
30
captained Erling Haaland. And the reason I captained Erling Haaland was I was very aware of the rumours, and I said to you, the strong rumours going around that this Man City team is going to be messy. But I'd come to the conclusion that I couldn't see the justification Haaland not starting. And I thought, you know what? So many are going to end up going against it. I'm just going to stick. I'm going to stick with him. I had it on Lewis Dunk at one point. I had it on Alvarez at one point. Yeah, got Alvarez's goal. But I stuck with Haaland, yeah. So, yeah, it sums it up. Isak captain Thursday. Isak captain Monday night. Nice yellow card to go with his blank as well Monday night. I captained Mo Saturday. The only other points I got, David De Gea as well, Lewis Dunk, Alexis McAllister assists. 1,900. What could have been different this week with those captaincies? Massive. Not that it would have made a difference to, I'm pushing top 1,000 or so, but yeah, it's just summed up my guys.
I should be top 100, James. If you counted the points from days that I just didn't have a captain, starting with the first evening when I didn't captain Jesus, I would be in the top 100. I'm 43 points off the top 100. What a pro.
Do you want to tell us all those captaincies you missed? I feel like James Madison was one, wasn't it? That Monday night he went off.
Yeah, Rashford. There was one evening where I didn't have the armband on Rashford as well. What a prick. Anyway, if I can get a rank that starts with 1, then I'll be happy. 160, 150, something like that. And let's see where we get to with 2 transfers to go. Our friend Paul McAnulty, squeaky bum time, 1 point in it now at the top of the leaderboard. Woo, come on, Paul. It's 20 points offset of third. So there's a bit of a gap to third. I think he'll be comfortable for top 2. But that 1 point against John Donnelly.
Right, like literally at this stage, it just needs Paul's 1 point clear of John Donnelly, and then there's a 20-point gap down to Brian McCauley. It just needs like their captain to blank. And the captain that Brian goes with. Brian's going to obviously captain someone who's differential, I presume. But then it's worth saying, like, what is the differential on Sunday, which I think is probably a wider topic, because is it Salah? Is it Haaland? Like, what's the most popular pick on Sunday? Can you consider people like Harry Kane or, Marcus Rashford? Or do you go really properly rogue? And, if you've gone like, say, Jared Bowen last week, do you go him again, for example?
Yeah.
I might just captain Isak just for...
It's gambler's fallacy, James. Chasing losses. You know better than that. It's really right down to the wire now. It's going to be exciting to see what happens. And I really hope for our sake for Monday, Paul wins.
What's happening on Monday?
I think we've got a couple of friends coming around to say hello, haven't we?
So Paul and Fergie from the 3 for 1 podcast are in London over the weekend. I was having some messages with Fergie, and Fergie suggested the idea of coming into our studio and the 4 of us record together, which is obviously going to be the day after Paul finds out if he's won £50,000 or not.
Yes.
And we'll probably know before we meet up whether we're getting lunch bought for us or not. So, yeah, look, we are certainly in Paul's camp going into this week. I think Fergie's dropped down to about 25th, hasn't he? I think. But still an incredible season.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the idea. So the Sky Pod next week is going to be next Monday. We will do it together. Me, Serge, Fergie, and Paul from the 3 for 1 pod.
Asking for it all season. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do it together, but with all in the same place.
For sure.
Their live stream, by the way, guys, is 5 o'clock today, Wednesday, as well. So if you want to catch that later and get an idea of what Paul might be doing, I'm sure he's not going to give the game away, but I'd suggest it's a must-watch stream later on today.
Yeah, for sure. Wishing them the best of luck as we do. So you got no transfers, so you just sit tight, hold tight. I know, obviously, captaincy. We'll cover off captaincy for the next couple of days, and then obviously we have a bit of a discussion about Sunday, and we can look at some of the tiering points from the weekend because it might highlight the rogue differential. I've got Haaland, Alvarez, Diaz, Dunk, Mitoma tonight. I've got 5 players. Not all 5 will play. If I get three or four of them probably will, maybe three. I'll be adding one more tonight. So probably in order of preference, Haaland, Alvarez, Mitoma, Dunk, Stones, if I was in that order.
If Grealish hasn't travelled, it's not to say Cole Palmer might play again, you know. I mean, in terms of that's one that like no one will go near if he's in the team tonight. You know, if you want to go kind of like your nobody owns captaincy tonight as a differential, that might be a shout. It's a good little player. Phil Foden will probably play, I would guess, though, as well. He's going to have next to no ownership. So there's a few there with like no ownership that you could go into tonight if you see the team. And I think probably the advice would be don't even think about Sunday. Like fix that. Don't, if you're making your decision tonight and you're chasing, don't worry about Sunday. Pick the guy for tonight who you can see is in the team, etc. I think if Kyle Walker was one of them that hadn't travelled, I'd be quite inclined to say Mitoma might be the best shout tonight, you know. Yeah. But if it's Mitoma against Kyle Walker, Kyle's so rapid in terms of what he does defensively.
Mitoma versus Rico Lewis, different question.
I think the Brighton shout, if you want to go rogue differential Brighton, is probably if Ferguson's in the team again. He's probably the one because he's capable of the whole. Alexis McAllister, obviously, we know we can pick up bits and stuff. That's obviously very dependent on where he plays. I think for me tonight, it will be Haaland or Alvarez, subject to the team. If they're both in it, I might just go Alvarez. I mean, what does it matter, right? Those protecting. If Haaland's in the team, we'll captain Haaland. I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis Dunk still hits passing tier tonight, but you're not expecting a clean sheet to go with that, I don't think, on this occasion. So I think it's certainly got to be an offensive player tonight, I think, for the majority, whereas maybe that's not the case for the game tomorrow night. Yeah,
I mean, it's Rashford or David De Gea, and I do think I might go David De Gea, if I'm honest with you. Home fixture, they're keeping clean sheets. I don't see Chelsea getting anything out of it, to be honest with you. Especially if Manchester United go strong in their midfield, Casemiro, Eriksen, and what have you. So I'll probably go David De Gea, is my feeling.
Yeah, I think I'll probably do the same. I think the differential ones, you'd mentioned Luke Shaw from a more value perspective. I think Victor Lindelof as well is 7.5. The chance of them getting that major hauls probably kind of unlikely, i.e. the goals to go with it as well. But that feels... I don't see a Rashford or a Fernandes going big in this game. Like I see United winning 2-0, 1 or 2-0, for example. That's how I envisage the game. And it might even be, if it goes late enough, that United know the point will guarantee them top 4, right? And it might even be that it meanders in the way Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle Leicester Monday night was bizarre, but it might even end up in a similar fashion where United end up going, we're going to take this now if they don't score in the first hour or so. So I feel that'll be low scoring. So I think, differential ones, United defensively tomorrow night. I can't make the case for anything Chelsea.
No.
And I think in any case, you probably would have bought it on Sunday.
Should Manchester United get the point they need tomorrow, then we know that Liverpool then can't catch them for top 4. I've had my eyes on Salah for Sunday for a little while as the one that I probably would want to put the armband on, because I felt like against Southampton away and them chasing top 4, there's really something to play for and go for. But that might be off the table, and that really opens it up a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many choices. I mean, even within that same game, right? Trent.
Yeah. Don't know.
Luis Diaz have next to no ownership. Remember, you're going to see all the teams, right? So I think someone like that, a Luis Diaz, Firmino, if he starts last game, these sort of things that we might not have the information for in FPL, all the Sky managers will, right? So I also think, to be honest, across so many of the games, you could pick an Eze or an Elise or an Edouard as like a final day punt at home to Nottingham Forest. Yeah, Jared Bowen, I'd mentioned if people went in. I don't see Leicester scoring big against you. Like I don't see Leicester beating you, scoring 4 against you, for example. Kane, Son.
Do you see Leicester scoring any against us? Not with that formation from Monday, mate.
They're not going to play the same way, are they? Formation-wise might be the same, but they're not going to just sit off and try and play for the 0-0 like they did on Monday night. That's fairly clear. Sonny, is sort of one. Like if Leeds are really chasing and go for it, him on the counter attack, for example. I don't think Everton players for this format particularly, but could a Yerry Mina or a James Tarkowski score from a set piece? It's not beyond reason. I think Arsenal players this weekend would be quite interesting. Saka's, Trossard's, Jesus's, where most of the ownership's kind of left them now, for example. There's loads of different ways you can go on Sunday. I think it's fair to say the two most popular ones will be Haaland and Salah if they play. Salah's ownership's still massive. Haaland's is obviously massive. They'll be the main two Sunday. And I guess there'll be a number of want to go Harry Kane as well. But then there's 20, 30 different options, I think, after that you could go into and make a real case for. There will be a game on Sunday that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to identify where it will be. I know what we said on Monday, probably Leeds or Tottenham or Leicester, West Ham, but I don't feel quite as strongly about that now because of Leicester's result on Monday night.
I think Palace at home to Forest, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
It's going to be tricky.
That's why, for those catching Paul, for example, you're 20 points behind a mini league leader. If Eze does what he did at the weekend, scores twice and stuff, and you captain him, okay, it's not likely, but that's it, isn't it? That's potentially your difference if the person you're chasing goes Haaland or Salah and they blank. But I don't even know for those protecting. I'm trying to think from Paul's situation, like if they're both starting, which one do you even captain?
I don't mind Callum Wilson against Chelsea as well.
Yeah, sure. It's that, as I said, I might literally captain the person I've got that's the lowest owned. I think that's Canate. I might just do that, to be honest. I don't even hate that for people who are out of transfers and chasing. Captain the player's lowest owned, right? It's 1 week. Anything mad will happen. So, take a Canate, who's not been great for me, but could he hit passing tier, keep a clean sheet and score against the team that's bottom of the league? Yeah, it's not impossible. So I genuinely might even captain Canate on Sunday just to do something a bit different and mad for the final day. Yeah, there's loads of choices. But who do you think would be the most captain Sunday, Haaland or Salah?
Assuming both are in the team, Haaland.
Probably is still Haaland, isn't it?
I do think so, yeah. I think people will still go Haaland more than anyone else.
It's so much more of a difficult fixture than the Liverpool fixture. I mean, let's say City rocks up with a defence on Sunday that sounds like it's going to be similar to what it might be tonight. Do you then feel differently about it? Remember, Brentford, if the win, could qualify for Europe.
Yeah, it's true. And it's a horrible game to go to. Like, I don't see City going big at Brentford, whereas I think Liverpool could fucking tear them a new one. I think, yeah, it is.
That's the point, isn't it? If I said to you now, one of them two teams is winning 4-0 on Sunday, you'd arguably say Liverpool's the more likely, isn't it?
Yeah, Liverpool.
Yeah, I really like Luis Diaz maybe as one. I think if he's not in the team, for those who've held a transfer back to the final day, I think that's possibly an interesting one. The thing is, it could be he gets replaced after 55 minutes and has done nothing. The risk on that sort of thing with someone like Jota lurking in the background. Nunes might even be back fit as well and stuff. But quite like that as a final day punt. Bruno Fernandes, I guess, is one now. If you've got transfers left, is that a consideration for you tomorrow, Suj?
No.
No?
No, because of finance. Like, I'd have to sacrifice someone premium. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice Salah. Even like KDB tonight, Salah would have to be my sacrifice to get KDB or Bruno, and that's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
All right. Should we do some bits from the games?
Yeah, let's have a look at the fixtures from the weekend and see what popped up.
Do you know what Lewis Dunk's passes was at Newcastle last week, Suj?
Why are you skipping Tottenham Brentford?
Newcastle Brighton last Thursday.
You're going back to.
I'm not skipping. I know my season's been dry, but I'll get there.
Lewis Dunk against Newcastle. I'm going to go with 40.
59.
Okay.
They had a major problem with Van Heck, who played centre back with Brighton. Newcastle were making sure the distribution came from him. He had 79 completed passes, and his distribution just was not to the quality level of Dunk or Colwill, for example. Jason Steele actually completed 39 passes, and I would say probably more than half of them were in the opening half hour because Brighton had to keep going back to him. They had no choice. And that was comfortably more than any Newcastle player. Gimenez and Botman 23 passes each. Wait till you see the
Wow,
difference.
in a 4-1.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't feel like that. Like for the first half hour, it felt like Brighton weren't on the ball. Wait till you see the difference to the Monday night data, by the way. Yes, Tottenham, Brentford, passing tears for Longley and Sanchez at centre-back. Ibisuma, 82 passes in midfield. Do you know what? I've watched the game back, Serge, and it's not as bad as it felt leaving the ground when you watch it back. Tier 2 saves as per usual for David Raya, just a 6 this weekend. We spoke on our Monday FPL podcast about Brian and Bumo maybe being very interesting next season in FPL because of Tony's ban, and similar might apply in Sky, subject to where he's positioned and how he's priced and what their starting fixtures are. Passing tier for Lindelof, Varane, Christian Eriksen for Manchester United at Bournemouth, and tier 2 for Luke Shaw, who also hit tier 1 tackles as well. And Luke Shaw comfortably the most with 81, despite playing at left back. Luke Shaw, 81 passes completed at left back. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, 28 at right back. I think you could see where United were trying to play out from. Shots here for Casemiro, who scored and tackled here. No passes in the Fulham Crystal Palace match. Odson Edouard was a scorer and hit shots here. Alex Mitrovic was the scorer of 2 and hit shots here. I guess Mitro falls into another one who could be a rogue differential punt for the weekend, especially if United do the business tomorrow night and decided to rotate against Fulham, and you've got Harry Maguire in the team and stuff like that. It might suddenly appeal. Virgil van Dijk, the only Liverpool player to hit passing tier against Aston Villa at the weekend, 82 passes. Kanate, 45. What a buy he's been. Trent just with 45. Curtis Jones tackles, the only other tier from Liverpool. Boubacar Kamara, 7 tackles for Villa. Be interested to see what his price is again next year. I imagine he'll get a little bit of a hike, but if he's a cheap one, he'll be one to keep an eye on. No passes, unsurprisingly, in the Wolves and Everton game. We do think, for those thinking maybe Dwight McNeil even for a final day punt, we think Mikalenko might make it. So on Clash of Correspondents yesterday, we discussed where McNeil might play, and it's probably left back if Mikalenko's not fit. But if Mikalenko is fit, he'll probably play higher. He will take many of the set pieces and stuff. I mean, we'd never advise him as a Sky purchase ordinarily, but for one game at the end, with something to play for, sure, maybe. How many Nottingham Forest players do you think hit double figures for passing against Arsenal, Sidge?
No, none. Because I remember from the stats, they only had like 86 passes in total or something.
Joe Worrell and Serge Aurier, 11.
Yeah.
And the Arsenal statistics are a little bit mad. So
they had like nearly 680 passes.
Ben White played centre-back, 106. Thomas Partey played half-back position from right-back, 107. Jorginho, 109. Gabriel, 87. Kivior, who played left-back, though, only 28. Came off just after the hour. Odegaard, 64. Bukayo Saka, 41. With that in mind, how many do you think for Granit Xhaka in the hour he played?
65.
19.
Oh, nothing.
She's used as a dummy. Basically, not used in the build-up at all. A lot of bias for Arsenal to the right-hand side. Jesus was the only one who hit shots here in that fixture. It was some passing tier for West Ham players at the weekend, Suj, for Declan Rice and Lucas Paquetá. Paquetá with the tier 1 set, Suj, of shots, passes, tackles, and assist, and a yellow card. He'd be a name to keep an eye on next year, wouldn't he, Paquetá?
Yeah, because he does like to get stuck in tackles. A lot more of the players going through him. Yeah.
I just wonder, do you think if you win the Conference League, do you think there's any chance Moyes would himself step down?
I thought you were about to say, if you win the Conference League, is there any chance at Rice State?
No, mate.
No, I don't think so.
Just think if West Ham did change manager and became a little bit more possession orientated, he could be great next year. He could be like an Alexis McAllister.
And there's every chance he will be great anyway.
But he won't regularly.
He's really developing.
He won't regularly hit passing tier. That's the point.
No,
in a David Moyes team, he won't.
But he's the type of player that can do a bit of this and a bit of that. So he will get the odd tackle tier, the odd shot tier, the odd. He's trying to steal penalties off Ben Rama's every opportunity. So he's an all-rounder. It all comes down to price, and we've got quite a few questions on Twitter that are talking about prices on players. So we'll talk about that in a sec. Yeah.
Levi Cole and Lewis Dunk, both over 100 for Brighton against Southampton on Sunday. Moises Caicedo just into tier 1 as well. From the Manchester City-Chelsea game, Very interestingly, Laporte and Phillips, the only two Man City players, hit tier 2 passing. Cole Walker hit tier 1. Akanji, 59 passes off on 57 minutes. Alvarez hit shot tier, as did Raheem Sterling. Nothing Frenzo Fernandez. Interesting. It's still 40 passes. It's a very decent number for a midfield player playing at the Etihad. We know that it was obviously this glorified friendly, basically, the game. These Newcastle numbers against Leicester. Do you know Kieran Trippier's passes?
85.
113.
Kieran Trippier,
113. Bruno Guimaraes, 99. Cher, Botman, and Byrne, all tier 2 passing as well.
Is this a symptom of a lot of teams just sitting off now? Like as a tactic?
That game Monday night was absolutely bizarre. Leicester literally set up just to go. Yeah, tried to make Newcastle's life very difficult. Exactly that. And do you know what? Their tactic worked and was successful. They got something out the game, which gives them a fraction more of a possibility of staying up. Obviously, if they win, now Everton have got a win as well. Whereas obviously if they'd lost, Everton would have still only needed a draw if Leicester had won. So it does change the landscape a little bit. But Newcastle hit the woodwork 3 times, which included a Bruno Guimaraes header from basically 1 yard. So they were a little bit fortuitous to get away with that point. But what was mad about it was when the board went up for 5 minutes, Leicester went all out attack. And Newcastle panicked. They actually panicked because they'd been in control for 90 minutes and was like, what's going on here now? And suddenly, because Newcastle only needed a point to finish top 4, it's like you'd watched one game for 90 minutes and someone turned it on its head for literally the last 5 minutes. It was a really, really bizarre game of football. I guess the likes of Maddison, Vardy, Iheanacho, Harvey Barnes are all the sort of players that could also be considered for punts at the weekend. But as I said, I don't. If that game has a lot of goals, I'd bet West Ham score more than Leicester. I think if Leicester win, it would be like 1-0, 2-1. Whereas if it's mad, I could see it more like being 4-2 to West Ham, for example. Yeah, that's how I see that game being. That's a collector item. Kieran Trippier, 113 passes. And wouldn't normally do that in 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's get through some of the questions that we've had in on Twitter, James, and we can wrap up and wish everyone luck for the rest of the Sky season. CW says, reflection as a Sky player. Let me start again.
Please do. You just start the old podcast again.
A reflection on Sky player prices. It's all the P's, James. Sky player prices as we near the end of the season. Obviously, some hindsight bargains like Rashford or Arsenal midfielders, but overall, very good. From memory, the only so-called underpriced player at the start of the season was maybe Romero, and he proved not to be when he got injured and or suspended and whatever. Injured, wasn't it? There are always 1 or 2 bargains that come up as well, like a Casado or a Paulinho, or was historically maybe a Lundstrom or something like that. So there's always going to be that 6 to 7 million midfielder that crops up quite well. There'll always be the 7 to 8 million midfielder that's priced, that's an 8 or 9. But there wasn't loads this season.
No, I think the guys did a great job with the pricing. I think the one thing for me that I would always say is, the problem is you do get to this stage of the season, particularly when you've got teams with extra fixtures, etc. You know, we know right now that the makeup of the majority of Sky teams is across 5, maybe 6 teams. It's those who've had the extra fixture. Maybe people have still been holding on something, Arsenal, for example, but it's those who've had the extra fixtures and, you know, the captaincy like Newcastle recently and stuff like that. So that's always going to happen towards the end. I would massively increase the pricing of everybody, is my take, because I think, say with Haaland, like if you don't go astronomical with it, he's still in everybody's team. You can't really go against that. If you look at the start of next season,
it's been competitive this season.
No. I think like they did a great job with the pricing, in the sense there wasn't anything that you went, oh, they've cut this up or anything like that. It was really good. Like genuinely, you're absolutely right. Romero was probably the one in pre-season we said, oh, 7.8, Antonio Conte's Tottenham, the way they finished last season, etc. That could be one where he becomes a template. I don't think he ever went over 10% ownership. So got it right. Across the price, things like Brighton doing better than expected, Arsenal challenging for the title. You can't foresee those sort of things.
No.
Newcastle putting
But when I
themselves
look
in
at
top four contention. You
yeah,
can't foresee those things. You can only price it with what you know at the start.
I feel like there's like a sub 8 million bracket of players that are a bit risky, a bit punty, maybe, and you want them to overperform. That 8 to 10 million bracket is where you've got the Rodris of the world or VVDs or whoever who your 5 to 7 point consistent tick alongs, and then above 10 is explosiveness and captaincy options and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the debate becomes: do you flat out more tick along players, which I feel like I did a lot this season, and that's what helped me, versus cheap out a few and hope they do really well and then have a few more explosive players and then they might not perform. But I know going into next season, I'm very much looking for players that chip away for the first half of the season rather than big gains and big falls. Chip away. And those kind of players were priced well, 9 million, 9.5.
I think there's a number of players where they've got to be very careful with the pricing next year. I think Haaland is obviously one. I think still Mo Salah, Harry Kane, if he stays at Tottenham, and probably Marcus Rashford. I think like if they're not priced high enough, they'll be in the majority of teams at the start next year. And I don't think that's how it should be. We should have to look.
Odegaard, right? What would you price Odegaard, for example? 10 million?
But I still think, say with Arsenal, there are variants. So Saliba, Saka, etc. Like with those four that I've just mentioned, they're clearly the best within their setup of their teams. With Arsenal, it might be Martinelli goes on a run, Saka goes on a run, right? You know, could Fernandes outscore Rashford? Sure. But I think we know Rashford where his ceiling's at now and stuff. We shouldn't be in a position, in my opinion, where we look at game week 1, and I don't think anybody should be able to have those four players. That's my take. Rashford, Salah, Kane, Haaland. It should be, we have to look at it and go, I can't have all of them. That's how I think the game should be. Or if you are going to do it, you have to be looking down the route of going, I'm going to have a Nottingham Forest defender and shit like this. That's my take. So I think everyone's pricing should be higher. Haaland's 11.5, right? Let's be realistic and honest about this. What price does he need to be? If Man City got good fixtures at the start of next season, what price does he need to be for people to start without him? Ooh. It needs to be massive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like probably more than any Sky player has been priced before.
Yeah. David Baxter says Monday ... with Ian Parrin saying, with special guests. I'm not sure if we're guests of theirs because they're that much better at this game, or just because it's our building.
They are special guests and we are hosts who probably don't have the right to sit in the same room as them.
we're hosts of the building and guests of the show, something along those lines.
And hopefully Paul's buying lunch.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Don't
come
worry.
on, Paul.
If not, I will buy lunch. Eric Ten Hag says, and I don't
so I'm all right either way then.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, fuck Paul then.
Eric Ten Hag, and it's not the real Eric Ten Hag. So Sky Captain picks, assuming all big hitters are starting for the last day. If you want to hold rank Haaland, Salah, one of the two. If you want a differential to chase a mini league rival, you're behind by 10 points. Wilson.
I think Saka, I'm going to throw in there. And that's against principle of what we've seen recently because he's held off the last month or so. But he signed a new contract this week. Arsenal notoriously do very well in home games in game week 38. Would have dished out a few slappings over the years. I could think of 3 off the top of my head. Everton, Villa, West Brom off the top of my head in the last 10 years or so, where they've put 4 on the board in home games, final days. There's probably another one in there that I'm forgetting as well. So I feel like that has a nice story to the final day, or Saka new contract. There's speculation that all's not well at Wolves. There's speculation over the last 24 hours Lopetegui might walk out.
You'd have him at Spurs, wouldn't you?
And I said to you on Monday, something's not right there. I could feel it brewing. No, I wouldn't have him at Spurs actually, because I want to get on my slot machine. Do you know what I mean? I think Arsenal maybe. Aka Sunday.
Yeah, and the other question was a 40-point gamble. Who's the big punt? Mitrovic, Eze, Antonio.
To be honest, at that level, you are looking for someone to put hat trick
Hail
on the
Mary.
board, really, aren't you? You really are. So
Antonio.
I don't hate that. The reason I don't hate that is I know I spoke up Bowen quite a bit last week, but it's just his home and away numbers are just not the same. If I already had Bowen in there, I'd be very tempted, I think, to stick the armband on him. I think Luis Diaz, as I said, is an interesting one as well. I think as shit as he's been, if the money doesn't matter, Sonny is capable. Let's say that. But I think he's just as likely to be a 2-pointer as scoring. But in terms of the top end, you're looking for someone to make up that massive. You've got to ask yourself, who's capable of this? And Sonny's the sort of one that'll have no ownership or he's capable. So I think he probably falls into that bracket.
Right. Auto close. Darren, if you could overhaul in the final round, what 11 would you attack with?
Oh, God.
It's a bit hard.
I'd be very tempted. I think he's probably not a blanket defensive. Because I think probably the best one would be Palace, maybe. Sure, Anderson and Gay might hit the passing to go with that, but Forest might just think, oh, fuck it, we're free now, we'll go and have a go and stuff. There's no way of knowing, right? There's nothing on the game. I don't see Forest just going kind of low block and being boring where they got nothing to play for. They might as well try and play with some expression, which, again, could make the likes of Eze, Alice and Edouard interesting on final day. I think, though, I'd be tempted to try and pick out players from different games, I think, rather than
mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, ordinarily, like, I mean, you're basically sort of talking about like a free hit here. Ordinarily, you'd go from like 3 or 4 teams, but I'd probably more be looking at it and going, can I take Eze from the Palace game? Can I take Saka from the Arsenal game? Do I want a United defensive? Can I go Son rather than Kane? You know, can I go a Luis Diaz? I'd probably, subject to what I was doing, I'd arguably be looking at real differentials. So yeah, making it up of your likes of your Diaz's, the Lises, maybe even like an Abdullah Decore, for example. Yeah, I'd probably be going mad differential if that was the case. I haven't got 11 transfers left to try that. You have though, haven't you?
Maybe in my second team, which is still called April Manager of the Month.
As well, Villa Brighton is another one beginning to feel like might be that could go either way, where Villa score early and make the game really tight and narrow, or it could be wild, particularly if Brighton would score first, for example, as that vibe that it might go that way. So I'd say there's something. There's not any game I would look at the weekend and go, avoid that. Don't go near that game. There's not one.
And Ian Parrin says, over and underperformers versus expectation in pre-season this year. A few to kick you off. Raya versus Edison.
As in what?
Raya did really well. Edison did shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saliba versus Thiago Silva.
Who versus Thiago Silva? Saliba's been great, right? He probably would have hung around in people's teams till the end if he'd stayed fit, probably.
Tony Watkins Wilson versus Vardy, says Ian.
Jamie Vardy, Jesus.
Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard versus Bowen.
He's the sort of one you could pump final day even as well. Vardy, Iheanacho, right? If he starts. Tony is obviously going to be off the table. Part we mentioned, and Bumo being interesting. Mitrovic has been good for us at certain times, and those who've been gone. Callum Wilson recently have obviously been laughing as well, right?
Last question of the show, James, goes to Benny Blanco. We've got to give a shout out to Game Week 39. If you haven't already heard about Game Week 39, what are you doing? Get on Twitter and follow them. The big charity football match that's on the day of the FA Cup final, Saturday, the 3rd of June. We'll be producing some content around that next week as well. Benny somehow has 4 transfers left and no idea what to do with them. Tell me what to do, he says. So
use them.
Yes. If it was you, so I suppose let's think about it first. Would you go tonight and tomorrow to get United and City for the extra fixture, James? Or would you wait till the final day and go rogue and just pick up 4 crazy players? I don't know Benny's rank. That's the only thing.
No, that's true. I would. It's not first.
Yeah, and I've not seen him on the leaderboard. So
I'd look at
I'd go
people like
Rogue,
I'd look at people like Lindelof and Shaw and think that's probably quite dull, but they probably play twice. So
Yeah.
there is a temptation for someone like that, or David De Gea in goal. I think the offensive players feel more difficult to call in terms of getting fixtures. Even they'd say Brighton players tonight and stuff. Like if you don't own Matoma, if Matoma's playing against Cole Walker, you don't want to buy Matoma tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he can't go off, but it's like, don't. That's one I'd look at and go, right, arguably a bought, and maybe wait for like your Luis Diaz's or your Rogue, like a Reece Nelson's in the Arsenal team. Something like that will happen final day, won't it? Where someone like that, Reece Nelson's playing for Arsenal, something like that, and you think, can I just do this? And of course, there's nothing stopping you. It depends what you've got as well, right? So
yeah,
City,
I don't know
the idea of
is.
City, if those players are missing out for City tonight, which is being rumoured, you don't want to buy a City defender tonight.
No, leave it.
So if you're going defensive players, it's United tomorrow, isn't it? And then it's offensive players tonight. That would be my take. Something offensive tonight, something defensive tomorrow, and probably leave the other two for Sunday at this stage.
Sounds good. Listeners, thank you for tuning in and supporting Sky Fantasy Football with us all season. It's been a great ride for me.
It's been awful. But always enjoyable. Always enjoyable playing this game. Just so all the 50-50s just that been. I was going to say they've gone against me. I've got the decisions wrong. There's more to the point. Yeah. So I need to figure out why.
We'll do some reflecting on Monday with the boys from Hub. Just thinking about it now. I feel like if I can get in the top 200 and you'd offered me that at the start of the season, I'd think you were crazy.
You'd be delighted.
Yeah, I'd think you were crazy. So, it's been a fun journey. I hope you've enjoyed it, everybody. Good luck with all of your final transfers. Have a little bit of fun, and we'll be back at you on Monday, as we said. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man. Shop.